Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's an honor. Put this thing back here. Cape. It's an honor to be here with you all today. Thank you for the honorary degree and for the invitation, Dean. I appreciate it very much. Cardinal, it's an honor to be with you. Mr. Monahan, thank you as well, and all of you. Had I known I was getting an honorary degree, I would have skipped law school 13 years ago. It just saved a lot of money. But in any event, I'm grateful for it. Thank you so much. I'm honored and privileged to be invited here today on such an important day for all of you. And I've done these before. This is, I think, like my fourth commencement address. I always get to wear this robe, and I brought my kids to one of them in years past. They were wondering why no one in the choir was singing. So they're not here today, but so I get invited to these, I think, because for a lot of different reasons, I hope, but one is to kind of share any insight or knowledge that I have about how to be successful or what the future should look like and any tips that I have. And I think I bring an interesting perspective. I was commenting before I came today that I am about 13 or 14 years removed from sitting where you're sitting right now as a graduate, and I'm about, if things go well, 13 to 14 years removed from sitting where your parents are sitting today, watching one of my kids graduate from a university or a law school, maybe this one. And so I thought I would share with you what I hope or I wish someone would have told me 13 or 14 years ago. And it's something that I'm sharing with people like you, who are very well prepared, have learned a lot. Academically, you've gone to undergrad, you probably did very well in high school, did very well in your undergraduate careers, have spent the last 3 years training to be lawyers, have learned not just the law, but how to think like a lawyer, which is a process in and of itself, especially that first year, where your mind is remade to argue both sides of any issue. And so you're well prepared for your career. And one tip I can give you, the one that I wish I had more fully embraced 14 or 15 years ago when I began embarking on my career, not just as a lawyer, but interest in public service and in life in general, is this, and it's pretty simple. You cannot do anything without God. It's a profound and elemental truth. Not you can't do most things without God. You will not be able to do anything that you want, truly, in fulfillment without God. This fundamental truth and the departure of it is actually the very story of man's fall. For once man was in that state where it really didn't need anything. When man was first created, man lived a perfect life. They didn't know sin, they didn't know pain, they didn't know death, they didn't know suffering. They had the answers to all the questions, and all was perfect. But man was somehow deceived into believing that they could take more upon themselves, that in fact, life could be even better if they did some more things on their own. That if somehow we would just take it upon ourselves, there was things would be better. There was another lie interweaved in all of that, and the other lie was that somehow when you turn your life over to God, God keeps things from you, good things from you. In fact, when you turn things over to God, God takes it all away. Well, it was all a lie, and we have paid a terrible price. In fact, the story of mankind is the story of that lie, and of thousands of years of an attempt by God to rehabilitate us back and bring us closer to that reality. Now, you ask me, why am I saying this to you? What has this have to do with my political career or your legal career? And the answer is everything. And here's why. Because from this moment forward, you will move towards fulfillment, professional fulfillment, personal fulfillment, the desire for your life to be one of happiness. Perhaps you think that fulfillment will come from making the right choice in terms of going into the right area of law. Maybe you think that fulfillment will come from marrying the right person or not marrying the wrong person. Maybe you think that fulfillment will come from some extraordinary case you take on or an office you run for. What I'm here to tell you is that the happiness that you're searching for will never come from any of these things. No matter how good your job is, there will always be, if you're truly ambitious, there will always be a job that you think is better. No matter how good your relationship may be with your spouse, there will always be a way to make that relationship better. No matter how much you accomplish, if you are truly an ambitious person, there will be things you will want to accomplish even more so. Ultimately, you will find that life is not about what the world defines as happiness. In fact, what you're really striving for is peace. Peace as we understand it, not peace in the global perspective, but peace in the ability to take anything that comes your way and see the good in it. Peace is the ability to be happy in both good times and in bad, when you have pain and when you have joy. The ability to be happy with great disappointment and great triumph. And that peace will never come from any person, any job, or anything you do. It's supernatural and will require your complete reliance on God to achieve it. Let me tell you why that's so important. Because those of you gathered here today as graduates, as Christians, you are ambassadors of your faith. And as graduates of this institution, you are ambassadors of this institution. Many of you will go out and work in the world, and the only thing that people will ever know, or the first thing they will know about Ave Maria Law School, is their impression of you. You will be the first and perhaps only impression they will ever have, at least in the short term, of what it means to be of this school and from the school. So much more so because of the faith element of this institution. And so your job, as all of our jobs, but your jobs in particular, and what you will truly find fulfillment in, is being a light in the world. A light on behalf of your faith and of your institution and of the values that you have learned and reinforced here. A light in everything you do. When you become husbands or wives, a light in that relationship and an example to the world. When you become lawyers, a light to your profession and the world. And the achievements that you in another career you may go into. But you cannot be that light if you do not have that peace. And that peace will be challenged for you on a daily basis. It's a peace that will be challenged by fear, the fear of losing things, losing your prestige, losing your job, losing your position. That will be challenged by a fear of suffering. No one delights in suffering. We all fear suffering. I remind you that any time you fear suffering, remind yourself that God's wisdom is not our own. And the story of Jesus Christ is an example of that. Jesus, the long-awaited Messiah, when he arrived, most didn't recognize him, including many of the men who lived with him. They didn't recognize him because they were waiting for a political figure. They were looking for a king who would overthrow the Roman Empire and establish the kingdom in Jerusalem and rule as a political figure. They couldn't understand God's wisdom that saw suffering as triumph. Which one of us would choose a cross, flogging, the disappointments, the people turning their back on him, the ridicule? Which one of us would choose that as a human concept of success? So God uses suffering in the world. We have an obligation any time that we can to heal that suffering and to prevent evil from prevailing. But know that it will be a part of your life until the day you die. Some of us will lose our peace by a discovery of our faults. My wife discovers my faults every day. And I would just say to you that know that there's nothing you can do by yourself to cure your faults. Only God can cure those faults for you through his grace. But also know that God is so powerful that he can use even your greatest faults to do good in the world. And finally, some of you, as I have, will lose your peace when it comes time to make decisions. You will have important decisions to make in your life. And we'll all be looking for a burning bush to indicate the right choice versus the wrong choice. I went through that myself when I ran for the United States Senate. I was a 55-point underdog. The only people that thought I had a chance to win all lived in my house. And 4 of them were under the age of 10. It didn't make sense. And I had 2 choices. One choice was to drop out of the race for U.S. Senate and run for Attorney General. And the other choice was to stay in this almost impossible race for the United States Senate and try to get elected or fail and be embarrassed in the process. And as I have shared on the campaign trail, so I'm not making news today, it was a choice I struggled with for some time. But from it, I learned a couple of lessons. Number one is, it was never revealed to me in some vision or anything like that. Contrary, I struggled with it for most of the campaign. It came down to your motives. It came down to my wife, who one day asked me a very simple question. She asked me, well, why are you in politics? Are you in it to be somebody, or are you in it to do something? And what she really meant, whether she realized it or not, and I think she did, is if I was in politics to be somebody, then you run for Attorney General, because it's an easier race to attain. If you're in politics because you want a title, then run for Attorney General. It's easier to win that title. It's more of a sure thing. But if you've decided this right life in order to make a difference, then abandon yourself to faith and run for the U.S. Senate, which is what we did. The point is, understand that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter the decision you make so much, because God is so powerful and so all-powerful and so great that he can turn any decision you make into the right decision. Doesn't matter what decision you make. Doesn't matter what law firm you pick or what field of law you choose. He can turn a wrong answer into a right answer if he wants to. It's not the decision that matters. It's why you made that decision. And if you seek him in that decision, he'll honor it. I promise you, he will honor it. I say these things to you because, now you may ask me, well, why do you achieve this peace and all the stuff you talk about? Well, I'll let you know when I fully find out, because we struggle with that even to this day. One is to simply accept that this is not a human thing. That achieving the peace that allows you to shine your light on the world is not something you're going to be able to accomplish. It's a grace. You pray for it because it's given to you, as was a man's original state given to man. The other is to become more childlike. That's the one advice I can give you. Not immature, childlike. What I mean by that is, I look at my own children. When they're very, very young, anything I ask them to do, they'll do. I have a son, he's 5 years old now, almost 6. He's become increasingly obsessed with being a football player. But he doesn't like to eat a lot. So I've convinced him that the more you eat, the better you'll become. And he believes me. He believes me because he knows I love him. He believes me because he believes that I would never want anything bad for him. He trusts what I tell him because he knows of all the people on earth, none love him more than me. Well, I love my son. How much more does God love you? And so I would say to you that try to become more childlike. As my kids get older, they believe me less and less. And sometimes I fear that the more educated we get, the dumber we get. That the more we embrace the wisdom of the world, the further away from the simple truth we can get. Let me close with and it's not my story, so this is being taped for television as well, so I don't want the author of this to hear me saying this story and say I stole it from him. I just literally don't remember who told me this, but if you're out there, I credit you. Because I think you have to be that way nowadays in politics. It's a story that I hope will serve as an example of what I think you can become. The way it was described to me was, picture for a moment a sunny day like today, at least now, where the sun is shining bright and there's not a cloud in the sky. And you're at a lake. And this lake is stormy and the waves are high in the lake. From time to time, when the waves crest, you'll see some sparkle of light off of it. But when you're looking at this lake, what do you notice? You don't notice the light shining off of it. What you notice are the waves being created by the wind. You notice the stormy nature of the lake. And that's what catches your attention. But picture a different lake on the same day. One that is perfectly still. One that is perfectly at peace. One as smooth as glass. It becomes almost a mirror, completely radiating the light of the sun. That's what we endeavor to be. In peace. In peace so that we can reflect the light of the sun. What I say to you today is pray and try to embrace that peace. So that you can truly be a light to the world on behalf of your faith and of your institution. Because the world today is as dark as it has ever been. It needs every bit of light it can get. I congratulate you and I wish you all the best. May God bless all of you. Thank you.